Riding your bike at altitude, like here in the stunningly beautiful Dolomites, where the roads often go above 2,000 meters or 6,500 feet, requires your body to adapt to an environment where the higher you go, the less oxygen becomes available to you, dramatically affecting your performance.
Yeah, let's look into that a little closer, shall we? Coming up is what you need to know about altitude and the best way of coping when riding when the air is thin.
It is a bit thin, isn't it? Okay, now for the sciencey bit. Now, the percentage of oxygen in the air is actually the same at altitude as it is at sea level, which I must admit was news to me, and that's about 21%. But the difference is the air molecules at altitude are far more dispersed, meaning that with every breath you take, less oxygen is delivered to your lungs. So, as the altitude increases, your aerobic capacity decreases.
Yeah, and research has shown actually that for a rider that's used to sea level, we'll actually see a decrease in their VO2 max, which is, you remember, the maximum amount of oxygen that you can utilize with your muscles and your heart and your lungs during exercise. You'll see a decrease of 2% for every 300 meters or 1,000 feet that you climb.
Yeah, so let's put that into a little bit of context. We're here on the Passo Pordoi in the Dolomites, which tops out at 2,239 meters. So you can expect to see a decline in your VO2 max of around 15%.
Yeah, you know what, Matt, I actually sensed that.
I sensed it as well.
Yeah, and imagine then if we went even higher, so like to Colorado, for example, where many of the climbs go over 3,000 meters or 10,000 feet, you'd be looking at a decrease in your VO2 max of over 20%. That's not insignificant.
It isn't. Well, the simple answer to this question is to just get as fit as you possibly can. Because short of actually living at altitude or simulated altitude, the only physiological thing you can do to make a difference is to get yourself into the best physical shape that is possible. And to be perfectly honest with you, that's what we'd hope you do if you're going to tackle something like the Maratona, for example.
That's right. But interestingly, Matt, research has shown that actually riders who are fitter, who have a higher VO2 max, will actually adapt faster to altitude than a rider who is less fit when they're at sea level.
Yeah, well, although you'll never actually fully adapt to altitude, the acclimatization process does actually begin as soon as you get to altitude, although the effects for the first few days are pretty small and barely negligible. So you need a considerable period of time to really start to feel the benefits.
Now, unfortunately, for the vast majority of riders, there is no magic formula for performing at altitude, except the only thing you can really do, which is to prepare yourself for going slightly slower than you might otherwise normally do. But the cool thing is you don't need to worry about it, because the vast majority of riders will be affected in a very similar way.
Is the air thin for you, Si?
Yeah.
It's pretty thin for me.
Those adaptations are negligible today.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the actual sensations you're going to feel while riding at altitude, expect there to be a bit of a disconnect between your legs and your cardiovascular system. And by that I mean you may actually find that your legs feel quite strong with more to give, whilst at the same time your breathing and your heart rate is disproportionately high. And that's because of the lack of oxygen uptake in each breath.
It's a bit like pudding, Matt, isn't it?
Explain.
Well, I mean, like, you get to the end of main course, you're a bit full, but you really want a pudding, so you order one, only to find that halfway through it, you really shouldn't have done, and actually you can't follow through. Yeah, just like pudding. Anyway, there are other things that may cause discomfort as well, other than dessert, such as you may find you get a headache, you may find that you're suffering from poor sleep, you get fatigue, even dizziness. Hopefully all those symptoms will subside after a few days. You may not get them at all. Generally, it's a cause of actually going to altitude too quickly.
Unlike I did when I first rode at altitude in Colorado, which is over 3,000 meters, I may add, try and take things steadily for the first few days, gradually increasing your effort and maximising your chances of adapting as best you can. Now, contrary to my coach's best advice, I went out the blocks, flat stick, into the red, and ended up with the classic altitude symptoms of dizziness, a headache that lasted for over 4 hours, and to cap it all, a nosebleed. Needless to say, Si, I learnt my lesson, and for the next few days, took things rather tranquilo, gradually increasing my effort.
That's right, make sure you learn from Matt's mistake. Although, you might find that slightly difficult if you fly out to an area like this, which has these amazing long tough climbs that characterise the route of the Maratona. So in that case, you're just going to need to exercise some real self-restraint and try and stay well away from going into the red on those long climbs. Although you're not going to acclimatise in a couple of days, by starting gradually, you're going to be able to slowly build your effort up and prevent that kind of a shock that Matt felt.
Which, believe you me, was not very pleasant at all. So as we've just said before, for the first few rides, build up nice and steadily. And importantly, on the climbs, get a rhythm where you're really in control of your breathing and stick to that. Now the fact is, you may be producing a bit less power, therefore going slowly, but don't worry. It's pretty much the same for everyone and it's completely normal. Now see this globe here? If you don't want to miss another Global Cycling Network video, click on it and subscribe. It's absolutely free.
Yeah, and if you're in the mood for some more content right now, then why not stick with the subject of altitude? Matt and I actually did some research of our own with the help of Professor Louis Pascal.
And glasses.
Indeed. And that video is just down there. Or to see the effects of proper pacing on a long climb, irrespective of altitude, that video is just down there.
And to tell you one thing, that view deserves a thumbs up.